The time is 12:21 a.m. The temperature is 106 degrees. I need a fantasy world right about now more than anything else. One Piece, Chapter 14, Reckless. So the chapter begins with Maji and Buggy. Buggy is amazed that Maji was defeated. And, he's like, what happened? And Maji tells him what happened. Well, no, that's not true. Maji thinks about telling him what happens, and he thinks about the warning that he wants to give Buggy about Luffy. But he doesn't. All he's able to communicate is that one, he did not fight Zoro as the plan was, but he fought Luffy, and Luffy is dangerous. Buggy should be careful because he's a man unconscious. There's another scene with Buggy's men trying to figure out what the hell did he mean. Man? What was he trying to say? Maji was trying to say something. Yeah, he was, and you should have gotten the information. But you didn't. And Buggy figures, he means that Luffy guy is a rough man, not a rubber man, which he should have thought of, but no, a rough man. We jump to another scene. This is with Shushu carrying his box of dog food going towards the villagers' hidden base, or whatever you want to call it. A bunch of people gather around, and there's this one bald guy, and I guess he's the second in command. And so everyone starts freaking out. They're like, well, where's Boodle? What happened to Boodle? Is he okay? All this. And then the bald guy, he's an older gentleman too. He says, calm down. Boodle said he was just going to go get food, and he knows the village better than anyone else. He said he wouldn't do anything stupid. This is foreshadowing because this chapter is called Reckless. And, he gets everybody to calm down, but secretly, or not so secretly, since we all get to see the thoughts, he's thinking, yeah, he said he was just going to go and get the food to the dog, but he loves the village a lot. So maybe he's going to do something stupid. And so we jump again, which is apparently a lot easier to do in comics than it is in writing, short stories and books and all this, because I've tried it and my switches are always either too abrupt or I spend 4 or 5 paragraphs trying to explain exactly where I've gone to. So take notes, writers. But we jump again to Luffy and Nami and Boodle. And Nami, she walks up to Luffy and she's like, I am sorry about what happened, about insulting you and all that. And Luffy, he's hard to hurt. He apparently is very thick-skinned, and it's not just the rubber in his devil fruit. His mind is he doesn't take things personally. And he tells her, what, don't worry. Pirates took somebody important to you. You have a reason. Boodle starts acting up. He starts going on about how much he loves the town, how it was nothing, how it was nothing at the start, how they had to leave and go there because pirates destroyed their own towns, and he's not going to let it happen again. And he feels like his heart's getting, ripped out of its cage, and so on and so on. There's an explosion because Buggy told the people with the doing the cannons to fire, and when you fire a cannon, there's explosions. It's not immediately because, the ball has to travel, but there wasn't explosions, and some houses were destroyed, and Boodle's like, my house, even my house, and Luffy didn't care about his house. Luffy's not a big property guy. Luffy was like, Zoro! I guess nobody else. Well, Boodle didn't remember about Zoro. He's like, Zoro, are you alive? And Zoro's like, what a terrible way to wake up. You know what? We're getting to the point where any day where you wake up is just, there's no good ways to wake up ever. It's all downhill. But Nami's curious how he survived that. So Boodle gets angrier, and he decides he's not going to take it anymore. He won't. And he says, there's some things that a man has to defend. And this was after he admitted how bad it is that youngsters and dogs are doing the defending. And Luffy's like, yeah, I agree. And so Boodle, storms off, and Zoro's like, what's going on? It's getting exciting. And Luffy laughs and agrees because it's getting exciting. Most of the readers at this point were probably like, this is getting pretty exciting. Everybody's excited, except for Nami, who is kind of like, are you guys crazy? And she also gets mad at Luffy for egging Boodle on. And Luffy, he's like, don't worry, I like him. I like the old man. I'm gonna make sure he doesn't die. So I guess Nami doesn't really have a good idea of what Luffy's personality is still, because she's like, how can you still be calm in a situation like this? Luffy doesn't really answer because his mind's already on something else, but he tells her, I'm going to take back the map from the Grand Line again. And I know you need it too, so you want to join us? And Nami, she smacks his hand away because a simple no does not suffice after repeatedly telling a guy, no, 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 no. After so many times you tell a guy no, a slap is warranted. And she said, I'm not going to join you, but I will work together with you. Which I guess is enough. Next scene we see Buggy and he's telling them fire the second cannon, and Boodle stops him not by throwing his spear. He just shouts out for Buggy to come down and face him. Stupid, but okay, because the cannon is up there and Boodle's down there and they're pirates. Why would the pirates honor any kind of request like that? Why wouldn't they just shoot him? Reckless, that's the name of this chapter. It's reckless. Although with any chapter that has Luffy in it, you could call it reckless and it would still make sense. So we jump back to Nami, Luffy, and Zoro. And, Zoro's excited because, he's going to get to fight. And Nami, she's like, how can you fight? You're still injured. Nah, it's healed. Besides, the last fight, I didn't do anything but get hurt. So my swordsman's pride is what was really damaged. Chapter ends with Luffy, doing the I can pop two of my knuckles and saying, let's go, and Nami being dumbfounded. So like Boodle, we have all got our own personal treasures, or like anybody in the One Piece series, we all have our own personal treasures that we're willing to do really stupid, reckless things for. And I'd like to know, what have you guys done that's considered reckless or stupid or just, insane over something that was precious to you? The first thing that comes to mind for myself is I remember one time I was walking my dogs. A Rottweiler came out and charged at my dogs, and instinctively my hand shot in and it jammed into the Rottweiler's face. And I was lucky. I know it doesn't sound like I was lucky because, my hand ended up in the mouth of a strange Rottweiler who could have, crushed my hand and taken the fingers off, with very little effort. But the dog was fairly well trained. He didn't like other dogs, but he was fairly well trained. And he was confused as hell because that's not something that happens, stranger. And he sat down. And my huskies were a little mad, so they growled at him. But, after I yelled at him, he took off and went home. Nobody was hurt. That's it for today. And I will see you guys tomorrow. So, if you enjoyed this, like, subscribe, share. Some comments would be nice. I haven't gotten very many comments, but, I would appreciate them. I would love to hear what you guys think. Am I doing okay? Do I need help? Do I ever babble? Do I not babble enough? Is the babbling one of the high points of how I'm doing these? Anyways, till tomorrow.